If you could tell us how long you've lived in Keene and what you like most about living here.
I've lived here for I think 39 years, longest place I've ever lived. And we moved here intentionally. We're not here by accident. We wanted to live where there was a college nearby, and we lived just across Main Street.
I like Keene. It's got a lot of the kind of small town feel to it, but we've got a lot of the conveniences of a bigger city.
We chose where we were because we like the walkability, its proximity to everything. We have two children that attended Keene State.
I'm a lifelong resident of Keene, 42, almost 43 years. It started over in West Keene, but I've been on the east side of Keene for about 25 years or so, since graduating high school anyway. So the best thing I always found Keene a little bit on the boring side growing up here, thinking that there was never anything to do, but as far as a parent's perspective, it's great for raising kids.
How has your neighborhood changed in the time that you've lived here?
It seems to kind of transform to more like student housing.
We started acquiring college neighbors at that time. We've had very good college neighbors and very bad college neighbors. But yeah, it's been a real mix, but less residential than it was in the past.
My neighborhood's changed drastically. We've gone from a primary residential neighborhood, being independent families living there, to I think now out of 15 houses, there's only 3 or 4 that aren't student housing at this point.
In the time that we have lived here, it has gone from mostly residential, family, working class people, elderly that were in their homes and had raised their families in these homes too, to a predominantly, there's a lot of college houses now. So it has slowly just moved in that direction. It's changed that way.
Please share a positive interaction or situation that you've had with a Keene State student in an off-campus setting.
I've had a lot of positive interactions with Keene State students. I've had many of them as interns, working with the work I've done. Worked with them in various projects for committees and volunteer work that I've done. And the work from the Keene State students I've worked with has been excellent. Some of it of graduate student quality. So Keene State has some really good students.
I actually own a 2-family. I live in it and rent out the other section. So I've actually rented to lots of Keene State college students over the years, and they've been great. They've been good, respectful, and they rent on time, hardworking. A lot of them work and go to school at the same time.
We've had some very nice neighbors next door to us. One young lady I happen to know, Allie, who's living there right now in the house next to us, and I've enjoyed knowing her just as a neighbor. Just the day-to-day interaction of saying hello, greeting. I've asked Allie to help out watching animals for us when we've gone away. So that's been very nice to have that availability of somebody that we can, ask right next door.
I do try to interact with students knowing that if their car is parked in a way that the city finds it illegal and I know that they're going to end up getting a ticket, I'll try to make sure to point stuff like that out to them, give them a chance to move their cars before they do get ticketed, things like that. So just try to keep the peace a little bit from that regard.
What has been the biggest challenge of living among college students?
Probably just in general would be not being considerate of the neighbors around them, even not just maybe families or other people, but even other students that live in our neighborhood that are busy trying to study or, just live their lives too without too much, upheaval. I'd say probably noise is a big concern.
I think the biggest challenge for me is just the overall noise factor. I live in an area of town that's kind of a conduit between one bar and all the other bars. Mm-hmm. So I've got constant foot traffic from 8 o'clock until 3 o'clock in the morning, almost every single night, and it gets worse on the weekends. So the challenge is, getting my kids to bed, keeping my kids asleep with all this noise from younger people walking around town.
Just a general lack of respect for other people in the neighborhood. I've had trash in my yard. I've had vandalism, and you might ask, how do I trace that back to specifically students? But it generally correlates with large parties. The bigger the parties get and the more drinking and the more chaos that's going on, that's when it just seems to escalate. Public urination, it's just gotten crazy over the last few years.
We had an issue next door when students used to live next door to us, that the landlord was not treating them fairly. And I was talking to him out in the front yard one day, and I said, you know, you shouldn't let your landlord treat you like this. And they said, well, what should we do? And I said, well, talk to your landlord. But they said, well, our parents should probably talk with our landlord. And I said, you know, this is something you need to learn as part of your college experience, how to grow up, how to take care of yourself, and make sure that your rights are protected too. And you know, so they tried to deal with the landlord, and you know, we were trying to help on our side, but again, they were being taken advantage of, and it took them a while to realize that, but they wanted to work, and they were happy to have us try and offer to help.
What one thing would you like student tenants to keep in mind as they move into your shared neighborhood?
That they are moving into a neighborhood, and they are living alongside of other people, and that they need to think of this just as if it's their home. It is their home while they're there.
Maybe hold one another accountable. You know, I think the vast majority of students are good people, they're hardworking, respectful. So when and if you're in a situation where you're with friends or whoever that are doing these kind of things, maybe exert a little bit of positive peer pressure to you know, think twice about their actions.
Just keep in mind that there are other people other than students living around.
Well, they're our neighbors, and it's a residential neighborhood. So they should act as though they were living wherever they came from, unless they're not in a residential neighborhood. But, you know, with neighbors who primarily own their own homes, but care about their homes and the surroundings. And it's unfortunate with Keene State, many students think Thursday night is Friday night. So they have 2 Fridays, 1 Saturday and 1 Sunday. And I just think it's important for them to realize that they're here at Keene State to get a very good education, but there's also a responsibility that goes with it. Partying is okay, and the only time we've had trouble with students in their neighborhood is not one-on-one with students or even one-on-two, but when alcohol comes out and they invite friends, especially from out of town, sometimes, you know, they can lose control pretty quickly. It's okay to party, you just have to party responsibly.